Hey everybody, Professor Snart here. Quick check-in for our English 1152 poetry class. So I'm recording this on Monday, October 15th. Happy middle of October. Let's see where we are here. So we're just finished up Unit 5 here. I'll talk a little bit about Unit 6, but also looking ahead to 7 and 8. 6, 7, and 8 are all kind of related, and we'll see how we're going to work on a group project, something that doesn't often happen in online classes, but I think we're going to build it and scaffold it in such a way that we're sort of holding each other accountable for participating even asynchronously, so we're not necessarily in the same room or doing virtual things together at the same time. But there's enough opportunities to sort of make sure that people are plugged into the groups and the projects, et cetera, that I think it'll work just fine. And it certainly has in the past. And I think it's actually a really interesting experience to work collaboratively with someone who's not maybe even in the same state as you. I know that it's a growing 21st century professional skill to be able to do as well. So not really part of our course content per se, but certainly learning a good skill. All right, so Unit 6 actually takes us to about the midterm point in our course. So that's the first thing that we're gonna look at. Want to remind people too of our poetry event assignment. Comes up later in Unit 10, but good to be thinking about now. We have our poetry events link over here in our course menu, I should say. So a couple of different things that have been added. That's really great. I've drawn attention to this one coming up. A lot of rats. I don't want to answer my phone right now. Just ignore the ringing. I'm going to do the same. Coming up at the end of October here on campus. And again, I don't want to discount any of the other things that have been posted here, thanks to the folks that have posted this info. But I know that many folks are probably on campus regularly, maybe doing classes or whatever. So keep that in mind as we get closer down to the Unit 10 poetry event assignment. So Unit 6 has us first doing our midterm reflection. So we're going to return to our e-portfolios that we've been using throughout the course here, and we are going to literally reflect on or look backwards on the work that we've done so far and our various course objectives. There's really not a ton of them here, and I think they're pretty self-explanatory for the most part. You'll also notice that we do them over and over, like almost with everything we do. It's hard to get away from some of these things. So your assignment is to choose just 3 of them. You don't have to talk about all of them at this point. Just choose 3 of the objectives from the list, maybe the ones that make the most sense to you or the ones that you immediately can think of a really good example. And then just talk about how you have, in the work that you've done for the course so far, demonstrated that you're doing those objectives. Try to be really specific, though, about your work. So don't just talk about, we did this as a class in Unit 2. So it's not a reflection of like what we've done as a class or the assignments that everyone has done, but what did you specifically do for that assignment? So you're almost like quoting yourself, including links maybe. Maybe you grab some screenshots to show things that you've worked on. Whatever to give us that like really concrete level of detail. So you're going to choose 3 of the different objectives from our basic course list here. Provide at least 2 examples for each of those objectives. So again, you're not really like writing an essay, not the best format for this. So maybe it's just a different portfolio page for each bullet point, or you work in a Google Doc that you embed in your portfolio, however you want to do it. And then once it's all said and done, post that URL to our discussion board here. Make sure that if anything's embedded in your site, the sharing settings are such that I can see it, right? And so the last step of posting your URL here is really just a convenience to gather all of those URLs together for me, and because the discussion board here is tied to the gradebook, so it's just a really easy way for me to efficiently grade these things. So again, just going back to our due dates, we want to be aware of when this is due. First due date for Unit 6, that Wednesday, October 17th. Okay, the other piece of Unit 6 then is really prep work for the group project that will unfold in Units 7 and 8, and I'll look at that in just a sec. We'll look at the prep part. So obviously the midterm, right, your primary focus. And then what we have here is just an opportunity for the groups that I've created. They're listed here. Hopefully we still have all our same people that are listed. If there's any shifting or changing, let me know right away. And really all we're doing here is it's a discussion board set up. I've created threads, so you find your group thread, whatever. A couple folks have been in here already. So if I'm, let's say, in a group with Brooke and Tommy or whatever, all I'm going to do is click in and just reply to my initial thread post here, just kind of making initial contact. So what is going to be our preferred mode of communication to get things going? There's some direction here to sort of prompt you. Obviously you want to look into Unit 7 and 6 or 7 and 8. So you have a sense of like what the assignment is. You can do some early brainstorming, but like I said before, online group work is totally possible so long as we scaffold it with lots of steps. Again, it's sort of about accountability to make sure people are checking in. So there's not a lot of work to be done here, but it is really important that you jump in and just sort of put yourself out there saying, hey, it's Brooke, I'm checking in, I'm here, I'm ready to go. Here's my preferred mode of contact, email, text, whatever you're comfortable with. And then, of course, to figure out as a group what mode of communication you want to use for the group project. So, I'm not going to mandate that it has to be text or email or smoke signals or whatever you want to do, but make sure that everybody in the group is kind of on board with, whatever you choose. And obviously here, right, if you're not checking in, that's like a really pretty obvious signal that things are not going to work very well with the group. So if you're not checked in to the group here by that Unit 6 due date, I'm going to remove you. We'll have to figure things out from there. So there could be some shuffling. Honestly, I don't really see that as much as you might expect in this kind of a thing. People, especially at this point in our course, are pretty well plugged in, but if anything seems amiss, you can always be in touch with me and we can figure things out. Okay, so clearly the bulk of your attention should be on the midterm portfolio project here, but also take a moment to jump into Unit 7, and I'll take a quick look at that right now, and to make sure that you're in touch with your group members. Again, you don't really have to produce a lot of content. You're not really working on the assignment even at this point. You might have some early ideas, but this is really just an opportunity to connect with your group. Okay, so what is the actual project? So that's explained, and you have work time here in Unit 7, and then it'll be actually due in Unit 8. The assignment is fairly straightforward, I would say. There's lots of room for creativity, but the group project, you're going to just choose a poet. Obviously, the group needs to sort of decide on that together and make a choice that everyone's comfortable and happy with. And you're going to analyze at least 3 works by that particular poet. I encourage people to do, it doesn't have to be like an old dead white guy kind of a thing, but do a poet that is a published poet, one that people, maybe we don't all know about that person, but we could find out they have a public presence as a published poet, not just some random person who like has a website or someone that only you and a few friends know about. So it doesn't have to be like, again, like I said, we don't have to all do Shakespeare or whatever, but it should be about someone who is like a working publishing poet, or who was, if they have since passed away. Okay, so a couple of things to think about as far as requirements for what you're doing. Again, we should see use of our concepts and vocabulary from our course informing what you're doing. Don't just Google some poet and like rehash what's already out there on the web, so be really careful about just basic plagiarism or kind of laziness here. And again, each group member should have contributed equally to the project, and try to make it, even as you think about ways to work effectively as a group, it should really feel like one whole project, not a slide deck that clearly has half the slides by one person and half by another person. I get that we have to divvy the work up a little bit, but it should still feel like a consistent whole. And so obviously the project isn't due here, but the bulk of the work should be happening here. If you work on slides, share that with me. Make me an editor so I can help with any maybe technical problems that come up. That's an important thing to do. And then we have our project planning. So again, this is really to help move things along once you as a group have looked at the assignment. Some early things to consider. Hopefully you've already figured out how you're going to communicate. What are some possible themes that we could work with? Do we want to do Google Slide, Google Sites? How do we want to sort of like present this work? And then you'll see that each of the groups has a kind of space to answer or to continue brainstorming. And so you're going to want to actually access that document, use the link. You'll see it here, but access to edit it by clicking the link here. So you can actually jump into your group's area and start doing some brainstorming. So clearly the project isn't going to be here in this document, but this is where we're going to brainstorm. And I'm going to ask for a link to, even if it's clearly not finished at this point, your slide deck, your site, whatever your group has chosen to work on. I need that posted in here. So I'm going to see both people or multiple people in the groups in each of these spaces. Again, you can color code things, you can add your name to things, you can mess around in here. This is your space as a group to work. You don't have to just leave it pristine and clean like we have it right here. And everybody should find their name in one of the groups that's going on here. Okay? And so by the end of Unit 7 then, we haven't finished the project, but we're about halfway, hopefully even a little bit more through that. One person from each of the groups needs to post or link the project so far, and then everybody will give feedback to at least 2 of the projects. So this is your opportunity as a group to get some input about how things are looking, maybe new directions to go. If you have questions or you want to elicit particular kinds of feedback from people, this is a really great place to do it. So again, you can post your link, but also you might say, you know, we need some ideas for what else to build out, or do people think the images are good, or, you know, whatever the case might be. You don't have to do that, but it's a good way of getting sort of more targeted feedback from people. So the project isn't done here, but it needs to be done enough that you have enough for people to provide some feedback. And then just to jump really quickly up into Unit 8, that's where the group project will actually be completed. So you have more work time, hopefully opportunities to collect or to implement some of the feedback that you got in Unit 7, and then you're completing things, and we have our final group project posted. And there's actually no reply component here, even though you think that would be sort of logical thing to do. But we'll actually do that in a slightly unconventional way in Unit 9. So in fact, if we look here, back at our units, actually I'm going to go into due date so we have the numbers there too. So a really good idea is to sort of look ahead, not just at our midterm assignment for Unit 6, but at how the group thing is going to unfold really across Units 7 and 8. Those are primarily the work time for our group projects, and then even into Unit 9 if you want to jump that far ahead as well. And that's got us even up into November there. Okay, so hopefully everything's going well in the class. If you have questions, concerns about content, about tech stuff, especially if you're having issues sort of with a group member not seeming to be present, be sure that you let me know early so we can reconfigure groups as we need to. All right. Enjoy the great October weather that we've got here, and I'll talk with everybody soon.